jump on late. Welcome to the Free Friday coaching call. Excited to have everyone with us this morning. And as we jump into today's call, I just want to set a little bit of context how this call came about and what it's about. I'm really excited for our guests that we have on today. For those of you that are joining via recording later, which we know a lot of people do, and more that will still be jumping on this morning, this call started as a result of Rick Jiha, my husband, traveling and speaking and coaching real estate around the world for a good majority of his career. And because he had such a generous heart, he would always give out his cell phone number and say, if you ever need anything, doesn't matter what it is, you call me. And so, over the years, more and more people were calling, and there was only one Rick Jiha, and the capacity was what it was, which was limited. And so he started these calls as a way to still be able to contribute and give back and help the people that he'd met along the journey in their lives and in real estate as well. And with his passing in October, Selena, who's our growth and operations partner for the Rick Jiha real estate team, as well as our organization with Empire Builders Pro, made a decision that in his honor and in his legacy, we would continue what he had started and devoted. He's been doing these calls over 7 or 8 years now, consistently, doesn't miss them on Fridays. And so we're here to continue that legacy. And so as we jump into the call today, just a couple of reminders. The majority of the people that are going to be on this call or listening to the call are in the real estate industry. This call is company agnostic. So what that means is we're not here to promote any company or sell stuff. We're really here to help people with mindset and skills to succeed in their careers and lives around real estate, and to be of service to the larger community, of which, of course, anyone is welcome to plug into. And so that is why we post them publicly. As you may have seen in my stories, this call got posted on Facebook. So as we jump into, and here's one of the things that I love about what's come about, you never really realize, I find that I don't really realize sometimes who is standing right next to me or who I'm surrounded with, really the caliber and quality of people. And it's often in tragedy that those people reveal themselves and step up in really amazing ways. And so one of the people that has done that in this is the guest that we have on today's call. And Bob Mangold is somebody that I've only come to know just over the last couple of years, but I'm excited for him to be on the call today, for you to be on the call today, Bob, because there's a lot of people that are out talking about things and presenting themselves as experts per se, because, of whatever reason. And some of those people have the years and the experience and the results and the actual firsthand knowledge to be able to speak about things. And then there's other people that are doing that things based on things that they've read or learned somewhere, but not have any real world or real life application around. And so I'm so excited to have you on the call today and to have our guests be able to hear from you and learn from you today is that, you are coming to this conversation with 33 years in the lending industry and 26 years as a top producing real estate agent. And those are some pretty amazing milestones personally, but additionally in the industry, you had your own brokerage for close to 10 years and started a mortgage brokerage that's just created incredible things. And I think that the life, kind of the life cycle of somebody who has a great heart is as they reach their own personal milestones, the natural thing that they want to do is turn around and give and help other people, which is exactly what you're about. And so you have some pretty exciting things for people to know as you're coming on the call. And that would be that in 2022, you and your group of business partners, which spans 44 states and 5 countries, did over 2.5 billion in transactions on listings and referrals. That's nothing to bat an eye about. And most exciting for people that will be able to catch you on the other side of this call will be in follow-up a book that you'll be having released in February if you list you last on Amazon. So those of you that jump on this call never know necessarily the story or the background of who you're going to be hearing from, but Bob is somebody that preaches what he practices clearly. So The topic for today's call is if you list, you last. Bob, would love to just kind of as we jump in say, I know that was a lot to give our audience an idea of who you are and what you're about, but outside of all of that, um, just to change things up a little bit because I don't give like lists of questions for these
Right.
calls or interviews. I like them to go organic. I would love to know just right now, right off the top of your head, what are you most energized about?
I actually think it's probably the best time in the last, call it 25 years to be in the real estate business. I know that's like a completely contrarian view of everybody, but if you actually take a different viewpoint of what is all going on, because right, it's changing with warp speed, for those that will change with it and embrace the things that are happening, it's a market like none other. And so for me, maybe I'm crazy, but I actually think it's a really exciting time to be in our space.
Oh,
So
I want to anchor what you just said. You said two things that really stood out to me. Number one, you said contrarian, and that contrarian is a mindset that if for, I mean, when you say that, well, tell me what it means to you when you say the word contrarian.
so it's nothing that I intentionally do, right? So it's not like, hey, I know people that want to be contrarian just so they could get to argue. I would say it's more outside the box. I'll look at something and say, um, this is what's going to happen. I'll be honest. The Sitzer Burnett lawsuit, I seen this coming like 6 years ago and created a process to do listings that took that into account. And so you just have to be outside of that. Now, for the last, let's call it 5 or 6 years, trust me, I've been harassed by the MLSs, the NARs. Our brokers love me, but they think I'm crazy. But at the end of the day, when Sitzer Burnett happened, guess what? I was just talking to one of my agents in San Diego. And so EXP got named in another set of lawsuits in California on transactions since 2020. Well, the truth is he's been listing properties the way that we came up with this, and he would never have anything to worry about in getting sued because of the way in which we did it. And so the fun for me is looking at things and how they're changing and saying, how do I adapt to it? Right. So if you look at the real estate market, many agents are leaving, more will be leaving, and everybody's afraid, right? So people run for the exits when they're afraid. But what it'll do is it'll allow agents, especially those who focus on listings, to build market share because all the agents who do one or two deals a year, they leave the business. So that allows the survivors to take market share, and that should be exciting for people to be able to do that. And so, there was an Inman article that came out, I think it was last week. 49% of all real estate agents did one or less transactions in 2023. If those people leave, guys, that's more business for those that focus on it. And so to me, it's a great time to be in there, although everybody else is saying, no, 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 it's crazy. I got to leave. And no, you don't.
I love that. So the second bold statement that you made is that it's the best time to be in real estate in the last 25 years. And that's a pretty incredible statement. So I know as we're talking about listing to last, we're definitely going to want to jump in and into the actual topic that we have for today. And I know there's a range of people that jump on this call. So your audience is somebody that's newer in the business,
Right.
all the way to someone that's seasoned and maybe looking for ways that they can skill up and improve. Like the people that jump on these calls are people that are learning based, that are all
Right.
about growth. And so I love that you're here with a contrarian perspective, not to be contrary for the sake of being contrary, but to be, to position ahead of where the puck's going in Wayne Gretzky speak. Although I've never played hockey, I don't know if
Yep.
anyone on this call has played hockey, but that's really what you're talking about. So
Right.
where would you like to start in this conversation around if you list, you last?
So I guess the biggest thing, if you're new to the business, then you might not have read the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent by Gary Keller. And so it's about 20, what would it be? Gosh, it's coming up probably 24 years old, roughly. But what he did is he went out and he interviewed the top 50 agents in the real estate space at that time. And he looked for things that they all had in common. And when the whole book was done, he found that they all had two things in common. One was they were listing agents. Two is they were unbelievably detailed on managing their database and their relationships. So if those were the top 50 people in the year 2000, Do you think that model's really changed since then? The problem is in industry, though, we don't teach that. I mean, there's the perfect business model that you could follow that's successful, yet 87% of all real estate agents fail. And part of that is there's no business model to follow. We'll focus on listings. And so I usually talk about two things: focus and simplifying. If you focused on listings only, well, you could simplify your life because you're not doing things like running Facebook ads and buying Z-Buyer leads and doing all these things that we do that's crazy that you spend all these hours following up on that turns into 1% conversion rate if you're really, really good. Yet I promise you, I don't know what market any of you guys are in, but here's what I can tell you right now. There are sellers in your marketplace right now that are selling their house that you could talk to today. They're called FSBOs, canceled, expireds. And so what I break down for people, and the way that I broke the book down, was it's a fairly simple thing. The first thing you have to do is decide what kind of business you want, and then you have to figure out who you're going to talk to. So it's the simple answer. What everybody hears is FSBO, canceled, expireds, and that is the easy answer. And I tell you, take the low-hanging fruit. But another reason I say that the real estate business, it's never been a better time to be in the real estate business. 65% of all homes that were sold in 2022, I don't have the data for 2023 yet, were by senior citizens. 10,000 people a day will turn 65 for the next 13 years. Folks, here's what happens with seniors, and I'm one of them. So I'm 67 years old, so I get to say this stuff because it's me, right? So
you don't look senior. I mean, I see you have the wisdom of senior, but you look great, Bob.
yeah, it's just old age. That's all. But at the end of the day, folks, here's what happens: is people age, we don't get healthier, right? We have to sell homes, or maybe kids, move out and move to the East Coast. If you're in California and they want to move closer to their grandkids, or they want to downsize. That's a market that's going to be there for decades, literally decades. And so it's a pretty simple thing to figure out. The other thing I hear all the time is like, oh my gosh, nobody's going to sell their house and get rid of their 3% mortgage rate. I have a question for you. When people get divorced, do they care what their mortgage rate is? Nope. So
Spousal support is what they care about.
exactly.
Division
So
of assets.
right. So here's the thing: 19.1%, this is nationwide, right? 19.1% of those people sell their house in the first year, 48.4% sell it in year two. So just know that if somebody filed for divorce today and they owned a house, within the next 2 years, round it up to 70% of them are going to sell their house. And a lot of times agents want to make this difficult. And they go, well, how am I going to find those people? And I'll be full disclosure, it's a little tougher to find them. But it's a real simple thing. They have these things called divorce attorneys that need to refer agents to those people. That's the market, right? One of my agents takes between 3 and 5 listings a month from one divorce attorney. So for me, it's real simple. Hey, if you want to double your business, go get 2. And here's the cool part: because he has one, he can utilize that to say, hey, I work with so-and-so, and they suggested I might, reach out to you because you may be having the same problem that they were having, and I was able to help them with that. Right? You almost have a referral. So it becomes a very simple business then if you want to double that. One of my agents works with probate attorneys. Who needs probate? Seniors. He took 13 listings last year, not including the 4 that he got the week between Christmas and New Year's, from one probate attorney. So what happens is a lot of times what we teach in the industry, right? I'm probably not the first one you've heard talk about probate leads, but I think we go about it the wrong way because we're going after each individual person. What if we go after the people who deal with them every single day and have to refer them to somebody? Wouldn't that be better? And so once you determine that, hey, I do want to work with sellers, well, there's people that we can start, or seniors, we can start doing some things to build. What I teach is how you become a resource. You can either be a realtor or you can become a resource. Realtors, as you know, don't have the greatest reputation in the world, especially after these lawsuits. So one of the things, if you look at like presentations I did 5 and 6 years ago, I was telling people like, listen, I don't care what happens in these lawsuits. Even if we win, we lose because we lose in the court of public opinion. So I don't want to be known as a realtor. I want to be known as a resource. And so, like, I do a class every other Wednesday, and I have like estate planning people come in, and I have senior care facility people come in. And we just talk to them. We provide resources because my agents have databases of seniors, right? We're able to take and become a resource for them. We're not hammering them. We're not being the typical real estate agent. We're simply being a resource. And here's the thing, folks, when they need you is when they'll call you. Another thing, and it sounds horrible, but you may talk to a senior today and they say, well, I'm not interested in selling. I'm not interested in moving. And guess what? 2 weeks later, something happens to them. Like in my case, I fell up. Well, I did my own stupid stuff. I fell off a roof and whatever. But guess what? If I lived in a two-story house, I wouldn't have been able to continue living in a two-story house. It changes that quick. And that happened when I was 62. So not necessarily smart. I'm old, but not necessarily smart going up on a roof in a rainstorm. So, but things can change on a dime. And so if you start to build this community of people that view you as a resource, it becomes business for you, not for just, today, but like next week, next month, next year.
I
And so,
love that. So you've said a couple of like really important things. You're talking about a one to many approach versus a one to one approach. And, first off, making a decision that this is, you want to become a listing expert. Number two, instead of having a one to one approach in the typical things where people are doing FSBOs expireds, yes, low hanging fruit, creating strategic relationships with people that are the one to many gateway, divorced estate planning attorneys that are going to have those kind of clients. And then the third thing that you've hit on, just for people that may be jumping on the call now, is that you're positioning yourself as a resource, not a real estate agent, and providing value, strategic value in a strategic audience that business travels at the speed of trust, and you're building trust and credibility with that audience and that group of people.
right.
Yeah.
And so once we understand that, then we can structure a business or create a business plan differently, right? So many agents go out and spend all this money on trying to attract the clients and everything, and yet there's all these referral partners right in front of you that we ignore. And here's the good news: when they do refer you, they're not asking you what your commission or any of that stuff is. They just said, "Hey, Casey told me to give you a call and said, you should be the one to list my house." Boy, isn't that the kind of deals we all want? And so once you determine who you're going to talk to, my thing is very simple. If you want to focus your business, you focus on listing. You only have to do one thing every day, like one thing. Because want to know what it is? Talk to 10 a day. Whether they're FSBO canceled, expired, seniors, referral partners, it doesn't matter. Talk to 10 a day. And it doesn't have to be, hey, Casey, you know what? Have you thought about selling your house? And then you're pounding away. Don't do that. Become the resource. Hey, anything I can do to help you out today?
So talk to, not call.
Talk to, right? Yeah, not call. There's a difference.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
I dialed 10. Here's the thing in today's world, guys, if you call 10 people, if you get one, you're lucky. It's talk to 10. And so the coolest part is if you ever read the book 7 Levels of Communication, and Michael Maher is now an agent that we work with as a company. And one of the things that he did is he blocked out Wednesday afternoons or Wednesdays, and he would literally have people come to the restaurant and meet with them, and he'd spend whatever, half an hour, 45 minutes with them. Could you imagine if each week you were doing that with 10 potential real referral partners? Right? So I call it a 20 by 40 strategy. If I could find 20 of these people that refer 2 deals a year to me, then I got 40 closings. I got a heck of a business just doing that. So what I find is we complicate the real estate business so much. If we just went out and got 20 partners, and then here's the key to that. Don't talk to them about what they can do for you. What can you do for them? Because Case used the word that I use a lot. I actually have a value to results quadrant that I share in classes. And really what it is just simply says the more value you provide, the more results you get. The reality of it is, 87% of all real estate agents fail. And the truth is, the reason for that is many. But one of the biggest reasons is they actually, as a new agent, they don't really provide much value. So their results are lower. The more value you provide, the more your results go up. And if you can move from what I call the failure zone, which is low value, maybe low effort, you're going to get low results. Then you'll get the people that come along and they're like the Mike Ferry advocates, and they'll cold call 6 hours a day in their machines. That ends up in the burnout zone, right? You just can't do that forever. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying you can't do that forever. And then we have people that kind of make it through that, say, 3-year window, and they start to get a little bit more knowledge. They got a little bit more value. And then they hit what I refer to as the comfort zone. That, to me, is the death knell of a real estate career. They start making decent money and going, hey, I got a pretty good life. And they back off. And they just go, hey, I'm comfortable. Because people don't like to change, right? Yet think about it. We're in the sales business, and sales is teaching people to change or convincing them to change. Whatever their situation is, change where they live, change the house they're in, any of that stuff. Yet we don't like to change. So we stay in that comfort zone. And if we can break from that and provide so much value to people that the business will just come to you, right? Referrals and referral partners and all that. I call that the freedom zone. If you can build a business that gets you to the freedom zone, one of my agents actually he's in San Diego, recently sold his house, sold all their goods, bought what I refer to as a rock star RV, and he travels the country, but he takes 2 to 3 listings every week on his Starlink internet from his RV on the other side of the country. That's the freedom zone. And so when you can provide so much value for people, you could build a life like that. Now, that doesn't mean you want to do travel the country like that, but they do. He's not geographically bound to his market to be able to take listings. And just to give you an idea, he had an open house last week and he was like 590 miles away and had more than 100 people at the open house. And he's not there.
More contrarian thinking.
Yes. Totally outside the box. So for me, that's the fun of this. For me, this is like playing chess, right? You got to think 5, 6 moves ahead. And how do you do that? Well, the first thing you have to have, I refer to it as a book of business. In real estate, we call it a database. If you're ever in the insurance business, it's always called a book of business because you're always in touch with those people. Well, in real estate, it's a database, and we think being in touch with people is sending an email that, just FYI, nobody reads their email up to and including real estate agents. Just saying. So we think that's contacting, but in the insurance business, no, you're required every week to go through and talk to like 50 people in your book of business. So if we start changing the language that we use and how we think about our business, it will change your results. And so one of the things that I talk about for value is I'm going to give you 15 seconds. Tell me why I hire you to list my house instead of anybody else, some mega team, a discounter, a whatever. You got 15 seconds. Be compelling. You can't tell me how long you've been in the business, how long you lived in your market, what company you were with, and how many 100 years they've been in business or any of that. Why am I hiring you? And so if you can't do that, I'm going to give you some homework today, right? It's called a stadium pitch. And I didn't get this. I used something different before, but I read a book called The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. And that's where basically what he said is, hey, imagine if I filled up a football stadium for you, people who were buyers, sellers, investors. And I gave you 30 seconds to get up and tell people why they should work with you. And if they were bored, they can get up and walk out. So imagine, right, you're in this stadium of people and you start talking and you literally have tens of thousands of people walking out. And then if I wanted to add a little bit more pressure to you, I invited 9 other agents. And they got to have the same 30 seconds. So now you're competing with them. What would you say?
I would say I would hope my self-esteem is intact or I'm going to take a beating or do some work that you're going to suggest so that I don't take a beating and feel
Well,
great.
yeah, part of it is, hey, listen, I'm more than happy to share what I say, but each person really does need to really sit down and think about that, because really what we're doing is we're competing with everything in our market, right? Discounters, cash people, mega teams, regular agents. I got a relative in the business. What is it that you're going to say? Now, the thing I hear on that exercise a lot is like, Bob, don't be stupid. You're not filling a football stadium up for me. And it's like, all right, you busted me. You're right. I'm not. But how many of you guys have been to like a BNI, a LATIP, a Chamber of Commerce, and they give you like your 1 minute speech? And you get up and you go, hey, I'm Bob Mangold. I'm with XYZ, and I've been in the business for 20 years, and my clients really love me, and blah, blah, blah. How many of you guys guilty of that one? And then you go, oh my gosh, it's such a waste to go to these things. I don't ever get anything out of it. And my answer is like, hey, you got 1 minute to tell people why you. And if you don't have a good answer, they simply won't. So do you guys want to hear what I say? Give you an idea? All right. So if I was in front of a football stadium, BNI group, doesn't matter to me. I would just go, hey, folks, there are 3 mistakes that people that own real estate make that prevents them from having their home paid off in 7 to 10 years. And what's really most important, it prevents them from accumulating $1 million in cash from that home so that you could use it for retirement. And it's important to understand that does not include your equity. That's on top of the $1 million. And I can do that with money that every other agent in this stadium is going to come out and talk to you about. We'll have you give to your bank instead of putting it to work for your family. Now, if you'd like to see what I could do for you, see how quickly we could help you put that in place, just schedule a 15-minute discovery call with me at www.savewithbob.com, which is not a real website. So don't go there and think it is. How many of you guys would be compelled to spend 15 minutes with me?
I give you an hour.
Yeah, right. So
what else you got?
yeah, that's it. Really? Come on, dude. Bring the heat. And so if you start to think about it, you have to have something like that as an overall for your business, but then for listing, how do I tie that same conversation into a listing? And so if you start to think about what is it about you or what is it that you do that makes you completely unique and brings value to them. So real estate is a business that we just love personal branding, don't we? Like, hey, we get those glamour shots. And I'm not even sure if they're still in business, but you know what? You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Everybody's sitting there with their arms folded. Like, nobody cares. It's value branding that people care about because they don't care about us. They care about what you can do for them. And so when you can effectively communicate what you can do for them, they're going to be attracted to you. It's a difference between lead generation and client attraction. Same idea. Why would I refer you to a friend, family member, coworker? Sell a house? Cool, you're a dime a dozen. And if they go, no, 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 you need to talk to Bob. But the truth is, we actually actively go into our book of business and we call people. And we tell them, hey, here's the thing. Tell me how you guys ask for a referral. Let me start there. How do you guys ask somebody for a referral?
Yeah, before you do that, I just want to say lead gen versus client attraction. Like people might have glossed right over that. That is a contrarian thought in and of itself because no matter where you go in real estate, people talk about the need to be a great lead generator or rainmaker or whatever you want to call it. And who here, I mean, just by show of hands, who here is hearing about client attraction? 2 people on the call. This is like a totally different mindset about how you're going to create business based on value, and people are attracted to value they perceive for themselves. So just, yes, like I just wrote that down. Lead gen versus client attraction. Love that. Okay. Sorry. Keep going.
And it's all based on value, guys, right?
Yeah.
So if you think about it, the whole conversation starts with, hey, go up in front of your stadium, pitch and do that. But now it's like, why would I refer you? So then, right, when you ask for a referral, tell me how you guys ask for a referral. Don't be shy. I know nobody likes doing this stuff on Zoom. You pretty much go, hey, do you know anybody thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate? Or some variation of that? Here's how I would do it. I go, hey, Casey, I just have a real quick question. I'm really dedicated on helping, our community teach people fiscal sanity. And I'm just wondering, do you know anybody who'd like to be, I don't know, call it completely debt free in the next 10 to 12 years? Like, do you know anybody like that? Yeah, like
Don't I
everybody
know
I
like
know,
that?
right?
I
Like
mean,
everybody I know. Hey, what if I put together a class just for the people that you know to teach them how to do that? Would that be something you'd be open to? Like you could invite them and I'll come in. There's no cost. I'm not selling them anything. They could have just bought a house yesterday. Don't care. Right? They could have a brother-in-law as a real estate agent. Don't care. But we as a society have done a really bad job of teaching people how money works. And I'm dedicated to doing that. Right. And the truth is I am. I'm sitting here in a pair of shorts in Scottsdale, Arizona, talking to a bunch of agents that if they knew how to do this, I could go out and have this huge impact on people financially. Sitting here in my daughter's apartment in Scottsdale, Arizona, that way. That to me is value. So the results we get are going to be based on the language that you use, right? So many of us, we'll ask a question and it really pushes people into a corner. So I'll give you an example. So we have a cash offer platform that we use, and we use it to get in the door of a FISBO, right? Hey Casey, hey, this is Bob with EXP Realty, and hey, the reason I was calling, gosh, I just want to make sure your house was still on the market. Well, yes, it is, but I'm not paying any damn realtor. Oh, cool, I understand that. But I have 3 offers on your property already. When can I stop by and review them? You do want to sell it, right? Now I get in the door, but I know what they're going to say. Either my offer is not low enough or high enough, or the fees are too high, and they are. But we prepare for this stuff. So I call it a pivot strategy. It's like they go, Bob, the price, I don't know, maybe I could work with it, but it's still kind of low. But man, those fees, like 12%, you got to be kidding me. It's like, no, hey, listen, I understand. But remember, they're investors. They're in their, they got carrying costs and they're doing all this and whatever. But I totally get it. But I do work with them. They asked me to present these offers. Is like, I have another option. I don't know if you'd be interested in this or not. It might not work for you, but I could actually get you the highest market value guaranteed. It would take me longer than a cash offer. It's going to take me 14 days. And instead of paying those 12% fees, they'd only be 3. Would you be opposed to talking about that? Opposed to. Notice also I didn't do it in a way like I stuttered a little bit, stumbled a little bit. Your tonality is important. The pace that you do is important because they're not expecting that. They're expecting every Mike Ferry advocate in the world. Hey, think about selling your house. Hey, I can come over. Can I come over here? I got a buyer for your house. You don't do that. You're doing a pattern interrupt, right? You're being contrarian. And so if you start to think about how I can be different and you think these processes through, then they actually become pretty simple. Like, how many of you guys call FISBOs every week? Be honest. Nobody. How come? Because we're afraid to, right? It's okay. We're all afraid. I don't love it. But if you knew you could get in the door, would you care? Nobody's ever said, no, don't come and bring me those offers. Yeah, they're flooded with calls already. You know how I handle that one, Debbie? I just go, oh, Casey, I bet, this is Bob with EXP Realty. Man, I know I got to be what, the 100th agent to call you today? And they go, yeah. It's especially effective with cancels. And I go, listen, I get it. I'm not going to be one of those agents. It's like, I bet you have to wonder, like, where were those agents when your house was on the market? Like, where were they then? And they go, yeah, damn straight. So now you've just built rapport with them because you talk to them differently. And it's, hey, listen, I only have 2 quick questions for you and I'll be on my way. Okay. So first, if I can get you offer on your property in the next 24 hours, and it's a price that worked for you, is that something you'd be open to? And then the next question is, you available at 5 o'clock tomorrow for a Zoom call to review the offers? That's it. I'm in, I'm out. I've built some rapport, and I didn't do what everybody else did. So you have to be different in what you say, but also in how you say it. I promise I could take and say that so fast your head would spin. It would come out like lightning but you can't do it that way. It's got to be with tonality and pacing and things of that nature, right?
I love what you said before you went into the specific examples that you gave. I wrote it down. It says, the results I get are based on the language I use. And just this idea and concept about how much words matter. And a lot of times, I know I've been guilty of it for sure, is just throwaway words to be in conversation that aren't intentional, that aren't bringing value, that are just about, creating connection.
Right.
And so often I think, it's like, oh, establish the relationship. However, what you're talking about is establishing a relationship by virtue of establishing credibility because of how you're positioning yourself based on the language that you use and not just the words and the way that you deliver the message that you have. So you're really creating those two things at once.
Yes.
Love it.
And so once you get the skills to do that, guys, this is all trainable, right? So as a natural person, I'm actually a pretty quiet guy. Nobody will ever believe that, but I promise I actually am. So, but it's a skill that you can develop. And I still go to all kinds of sales training to this day, right? I just paid like $5,900 last night to go to somebody else's sales training. Right. I'm an old guy. And it's like, but for me, that is the fun of the business for me, is the learning part. But it changes the conversations we have. So if you can take and come up with a value proposition and then put the right language in place around it, you're going to magnify your results. Forget 10x. And so that's really what your homework has to be. You do have to sit down and do this, right? I come up with these scripts and things like that. They're all scripted, I promise. And I write this stuff out. You can't believe how much time I spend over messing around. I was like, I don't like that word. It's like, what? And Michelle will go like, dude, you're crazy. It's like, yeah, you know what? I don't like that word. What is another word? And I'm in the source looking at different words, right? Because the words matter. Because if you ask the question, so when I do, speak to live groups, I always say, hey, your income is directly proportional to the power of your questions. If you ask crappy questions, you're going to get crappy answers. So don't ask crappy questions, right? Like, so when I go to ask for a referral, if I said, do you know anybody thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate? Here's the deal, guys. If I ask real estate agents that, they go, no, I don't. If I did, I'd make more money. Well, how do you think your clients are going to do it? But I just go, hey, is there anybody you know that would like to be completely debt-free? So again, how we think of these and position ourselves, right? So I did a podcast, and if you guys want to go, you can get a copy of a pre-release version, not the Kindle version of the book. You just go to ifyoulistyourlast.com, and you can connect to my podcast I started doing about 10 weeks ago. But I did one a couple weeks ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago. What's the biggest objection that people have for not selling their house right now? Their interest rate. It's not affordable anymore. So how would you answer that? Like, what would you guys say to that? Nothing
This
good,
is where
right?
everybody jumps off mute at the same time.
Yeah. It's like, oh, is he really asking me a question? Yeah. We kind of go like, oh, I don't have a good answer for that. And what if I would just go, hey, Debbie, if I could show you mathematically, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that you'd be better off buying a more expensive home at double the interest rate that you're paying right now, would you at least be open to look at the math?
It sounds impossible, and I am a bookkeeper, but yes, I would be open to see how you came up with this.
It does. So don't ask me to quote the exact numbers, but if you go listen to the podcast, I think it was episode 10, if I remember right. Or no, that was the loan, episode 9. I literally could take somebody who bought a $400,000 house in 2020. They have a 3% loan. They could go buy a $700,000 house now at 6.5%. They would have an additional $647,000 in equity 20 years from now. I didn't even do 30. I just did 20. And I actually could improve their cash flow by $597 a month. So Debbie, not only will I show you how to do it, but I'm going to actually give you a pay raise into your cash flow every month if you were to do that. Do you want me to run through the math for you?
All day long.
Right, all day long, right? So I always joke about this, although it's not a joke. You can clearly see I don't look like Brad Pitt. I'm a D personality from the South Side of Chicago, so I'm not always particularly charming. But all I have going for me is what I have up here. And that's what I rely on. And so if you start to say, so Debbie, you're a bookkeeper, your strength is, and your client avatar to me would be your bookkeeper. You tend to be more of that S&C personality, right?
I'm more I and C.
Okay, so I and C, but you got that C in there. Who should your client avatar be?
The more analytical people, statistical people.
Yeah. The people like me and Casey don't like working with. The D's don't like that. We just don't. We just hate it. So I would rather refer them to you and take a referral fee than have to deal with it. I know it sounds terrible, but see how, like, if you start to think through your business.
Life.
Pardon?
It's called quality of life.
Yeah.
When you know your target audience and you work with the people that you want to work with.
Yeah.
You know your limits.
Yeah. People go, oh, that Bobby's so harsh. It's like, yeah, but the harsh people love me.
Yeah.
The S's and the C's, I don't really love the guy, but he's really smart. But guess what, guys? If I can get that answer, that's okay, right? So it allows you to start building that avatar. So you can kind of tell I started on the mortgage side of the business, so I can look at it a little differently. But I promise you, if you go to your mortgage person today and ask them, hey, could you show me the math on how that would work? They can't show you that. That's what I mean by, I don't necessarily think that's contrarian. I think that's outside the box. It's just digging into the problem and saying, hey, is it true? Because if that's our number one objection in the industry, right? And you hear it all over the media and everything else. And I just sat down one day and says, well, you know what? Let me prove it to myself that that's true. And then when I did the math, it's like, it's not even close. I can give you a $600 pay raise to do this and an extra $647,000 at the end of 20 years. Did you have a question?
Yeah, could you run us through the math? Is it something on the phone?
I can, but I'd probably tell you to save you time to listen to the podcast because I want to talk about some other things about, hey, we talked about who we're going to talk about. Then it's going to be where you're going to find them is the second phase of it. But the third is the why. And I kind of skipped to the why. Why does somebody hire you to list the home? You have to sit down and figure out what that answer is, especially if you're new. Because the reality is, folks, for 98% of listing agents, it's the same thing. Hey, here's my PowerPoint presentation. I go in and I tell you how wonderful I am and how long I've been doing this. And let me show you pictures of my kids and my dog Fluffy and all that. People don't care. They want to know what you know and what you're going to do to help them make more money. So, like, what are three things? There's like, tell me what a seller's focused on. There's really only three. Do you guys know what they are? Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Getting the most amount of money for selling the house. Well, you have to figure out their pain points. It depends if they need to get out quickly. Right. And as painless as possible.
So here's how I say it. I just use a little bit different words. I'm assuming you want the highest market value, right? And you want to get this done quick and you want the least amount of hassles and headaches. Is there anything else that you're looking for from me? Now, I will tell you 99% of the time they say, no, if you can do that, I'd be thrilled. Cool. Guess what, guys? That's all you got to do is help them do it. So here's the trick for you. In your listing presentation, how do you show them that you're going to get the highest price? How are you going to do it fast? And how are you going to do it to eliminate the hassles and headaches? And a lot of people go, well, the hassles and headaches, there's not much I can do about that. Just know this, CoreLogic came out with a study last November, 2022, I should say, that said 77% of the people were willing to give up between 5 and 10% of their equity just to avoid the hassle, the process that we put them through. So I want you to think about this as an industry. 77% of the people hate our process. Hundreds of thousands of them are now suing us for how we charge them. Do you think we might, as an industry, want to change the way we do this? Asking for a friend.
I'm glad you brought that up, Bob. So how do you address that in your listing presentation with what we're going through with the lawsuit?
So I created a system 6 years ago. How many guys have sold, anybody sold a HUD home, HUD VA USDA home? Yeah. Okay, cool. So tell me if this is how it works. The house is $500,000. You go in and punch in 500,000. They say, hey, how much do you want to make? You say 15,000. 3% of that contract's written at 515, right? So we do the same thing, except it's transparent. So what happens is we take and totally break out the buyer's compensation so that we can show the buyer how paying their agent affects the price of their home. So we have a net price, kind of like HUD. Then we have the buyer's agent compensation in, and the contract is written at the other price, right? So we don't have an issue now. Like everybody's trying to figure out, holy crap, if all this buyer agent compensation goes away, how in the hell are we going to get this through the mortgage side of the business? And my answer is, I don't care. So not only that, I actually was completely transparent on what the buyer's compensation was. And what we do is we make it completely transparent. Where you go into HUD, you don't know if anybody else is submitting an offer, do you? So ours are completely transparent. We take and do a 2-day open house. So we don't let you in the house. I call it the DUST formula, right? We create demand, urgency, scarcity, and transparency. So what we do is we create demand with the price. We start the house about 15%, not about 15% under market value. So like, I'll give you an example. We just did one on Wednesday night in Robert, who's not in San Diego. $1 million house is what he thought it was worth. Started it at 850. We ended up at $1.15 million on it. It's an online auction, for lack of better terms. So, right, I fancied up, and we fancied it up, and our marketing, our compliance, and our attorneys at our company have spruced up the language. Man, at the end of the day, that's what it is. And so it's completely open. What we do is we don't let you in the house until the open house. Then, in order to take and submit an offer, you have to give us either proof of funds and or your fully automated desktop underwritten approval, or we don't let you submit an offer. Along with that, we want to see your down payment funds. Do you have them, and how much are they? There's a reason we do that. So at the end of the day, what happens is after the open house, we activate people to be able to submit their offers once we've had all the traffic in. So to give you an idea, we did it. We had, I think it was 110 at this open house that did this one, right? Our record open house was April 3rd last year. We had 1,224 people in that open house. Our average in Southern California is about 600. Let me ask you guys, if you have 600 people coming in, do you need to spend any money on generating buyer leads? And if you had that many people coming in, can we agree you'd need to have some buyer's agents to work with them? And would it be offensive to you if they would pay you a 25% referral fee on all that business? It's the process. And so now, because of that process, the way that we do it is, again, the language. So here's how we talk about commission. Hey, Selena, how much commission were you thinking of offering?
2.5%.
How much?
2.5%.
Okay. So are we going to split that between a buyer's agent and a seller's agent?
Oh, no. In that case, it's 5.
Okay. So typically people go, well, Bob, I know it's kind of 6% and, but boy, if we could do 5, that would be killer. And oh my God, 4 would be even better. I'll just go, hey, Selena, why don't we just do 3? Would that be okay?
3.
And then if another agent brings a buyer to us, what we're going to do is we're going to have the buyer pay their own agent in the form of a higher price. This way, the money doesn't come out of your pocket, because my main goal is to set you up financially. And the more money we can walk away from this home with, the faster I can do it in your new home. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And you go, what? That was the commission conversation?
We've done this in New York. I love this, Bob.
So it's the process that we create. And so literally, guys, the truth is the real reason I came up with it. Cash offer people were coming in and into Phoenix back then. And, we had every discounter on the planet around. And then I seen this stuff with DOJ going after an hour. But the reality is, my son was 22 years old and got a real estate license. And I'm going, how do I send a 22-year-old kid into a listing presentation and not have them go, hey, kid, how old are you? How many homes have you sold? And are you crazy? I'd work with a 22-year-old kid. So it had to be about the process. And so I created a process. And you know what? Nobody ever asked him how old he was. And so if you're a new agent, that's probably one of your bigger fears, is like, well, how are you going to answer that question? It's going to come up. And so for me, that's where I sit down, literally, guys, I sit down, I'll go away from the weekend. I'll go away for the weekend, go to a hotel. Nobody's calling me, no kids, no nothing. And I just sit and think through these things. Yes, I know that makes me nuts, weird, geek, whatever you want to call it. But if you think it through, well, then I don't have to be nervous talking to people. I've anticipated every objection to come up. And can we agree, like, that's a pretty good answer for why you would work with me? Hey, Casey, first of all, my number one goal is to have you walk away from this house with as much equity as possible, because we're going to use that to help you build wealth out of the next property. And we're going to do that by getting you the highest market value guaranteed. It's going to take me a 14 days, so it's quick. And you're going to pay half the cost of a normal transaction. Would you be opposed to something like that? That's the close. And then the real close is, when do we want to schedule your open house? That's the why.
So Bob, and following up on what you're saying, because I love all of this, by the way, what I want everybody to kind of really piggyback on is, one, the homework, right, of what you're saying, is sitting down, thinking about what that answer is. And right, we teach this all when we're doing business planning, right? There's a section in there about like, what is it that you're offering? And then what I'm trying to make sure everyone's understanding is that this takes practice, right? Bob's telling you, this is a script. This is not something that he thinks about one time and then it's perfection, right? When you
Amen.
are an agent, this is literally, like, I want you to think about this like a basketball player or a football player who is literally practicing and practicing and practicing those throws when you're a basketball player, and then they're in a game for a very short period of time. So Bob's creating a script, and he even said, like, he'll look at it and say, that I don't like that word, and he'll go back and he'll fix it, and then he's practicing for that 1 hour he's in front of a client, until he's so set and so certain on the language and the way he's saying it and the way he's speaking it, so that when he's saying it in front of someone, there's no breakdown in that communication. He's not saying, he's not distracted. He sounds confident in the way that he's saying it, so that that client feels that confidence in him and knows and can make the decision, because there's no uncertainty, right? It's practice.
Yep. Have you guys ever seen Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger were interviewed together? And the person that interviewed him asked him, so like, what do you spend the majority of your day on? And Warren Buffett, like this, goes, thinking. It's good enough for the richest guy in the world. It's good enough for me. And here's the other cool part, folks. So Selena just said, hey, when you're in front of the client for an hour, yeah, we don't do that. We do it all on Zoom. We don't even go into the houses anymore for listing. We get it all done on Zoom. Sometimes the first time we see the open house see the house is at the open house. That doesn't mean we wouldn't go there, but if we don't have to go there, especially, many of you guys might be in California, you guys have this thing called traffic. right? So traffic eats time. Time is the only commodity that we have. So if you could take a listing and do it on Zoom without having to leave and sit in like an hour of traffic, like every time I'm in Southern California, I go nuts. I got to go 5 blocks and it's like an hour. Everybody's like, oh no, it's an hour away. No, it's not. And so at the end of the day, so Vanessa said she has to smell it to sell it. Vanessa, I'm not telling you what's right or wrong for you. I'm just telling you what's possible. I get that all the time. It's like people never list their house, or I have to do this and I have to do that. And I go, you're right, you do. You want to know why? Because you just told me you did. So for me, I'll just tell you, when I was actually in production, here's how I used to think about it. It wasn't how much money I made. It was how much money I made in the time that I worked. So at one point I was making, call it $500,000, and I was working probably 60 hours a week. And then again, next year, the goal was how do I make 750, but get that down to whatever, 40 hours a week. And then when I did that, it was, well, how do I make $1.5 million and work 30 hours a week? And then it was, well, how do I make 2 million a year net, by the way, not GCI net. That's a different thing. And work 25 hours a week. And I'll be honest, I never quite got to net 2 million. I got to like 1,982,000. So I didn't never quite hit my goal. So I know I'm a failure, but I was able to get over it. And so start to think about your business. If you're a listing agent and somebody calls you at 6 o'clock on Saturday night and says, hey, can we go look at this $1.5 million house tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, and you have whatever, a birthday party, going to church, whatever it was, what are you going to do? You're going to go show the house, aren't you? If you're the listing agent, do you have to do that? So now I can make more money because I can control market share. If you, again, do the math on it, takes on average, what, 40 hours, call it, to get a buyer done from beginning to end, and I'm being conservative. What's it take you to get a listing done? 10? And get 4 paydays instead of 1 in the same amount of time. And that's the difference. That's why, you know, I have nothing against buyers. I actually like working with buyers better than listings. It's more satisfying for me. But at the end of the day, it's business. My business model says, how do I maximize the amount of money that I can make in the least amount of hours, providing massive value? When I do that, then I know I have a good business plan, at least in my opinion. So,
well, I want to thank you. I know we're coming to the top of the hour. This was a value-packed hour. I have 3 pages of notes.
oh gosh.
And
and I just think I'm babbling along.
No, I am like, you know, much like you and anyone that's on this call, I'm constantly learning to look and grow and like, how do I become better and take it to the next level and support people also that we're in business with, right? And
Right.
So I want to acknowledge the diligence that you have taken with becoming a master at your craft. And I also want to acknowledge the very abundant and generous heart that you have to pay it forward with no benefit to yourself, to give for the sake of giving to this community of people that are here to learn. And I really appreciate you, and thank you so much for being willing to share and contribute. And we'll look forward to having you back on another topic, because I'm sure you're not a one-hit wonder. I know that about you.
Yeah, guys, if any of you want to jump on classes that I do, you could just go download the book and it'll tell you how to plug into those. Because that's what Selena and I were talking about today. I think this is like my 7th or 8th class that I've done on Zoom this week. So I'm always doing something. So if you want to plug into them, you're more than welcome to do it. I seen somebody said, can I get the scripts? Like, go download the book. It's pretty much most of it's in there. Jump on those classes and I do that stuff. So.
Selena, anything else before
No, Bob, it was amazing. I mean, I love you.
Thanks.
We feel so much the same way, that I think this is going to be an incredible year in real estate. You know, it's all about what you believe, and don't listen to the stories. You make it what it is, right? So
opportunity is everywhere.
Someone just asked again, what was the name of the book? It's
if you list, you last.
And I put the link in the chat. So if you want to grab that, guys, that is the website. ifyoulistyoulast.com. Go take a peek at that. And Bob, I can't say enough again. Thank you. This was an incredible
my pleasure. Call. So anytime, guys. Anytime.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys. Hey, go out and take some listings.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye,
Talk to you guys.